This is the printing process for a black shirt from beginning to end. Now we're going to take our pre-treated black shirt, we're going to load our platen, just like before. We really don't do this on the machine normally. Make sure that we don't stretch the garment, just nice and taut. Make sure the corners are tight. No labels are sticking up. Push the bed in so that the gap sensor just catches the beginning of the garment. We do want that gap sensor to scan the entire garment. Set the height, hold the up button, release, turns green, that's our ready status. Now we hit the load button and load the platen and the garment into the machine. Now we may have ripped the file already, or we can rip it at this point in time. So we are now going to go over to our computer and take care of the file that we're going to send to the printer.
Let's take a look at how we would process the file that we wish to print. The first thing we're going to do in our ripping software is we're going to pick the color and type of garment that we're going to be printing on. In this case, we're printing on a black shirt. Once we pick that, then we go and actually pick the print queue that we wish to use. You will notice that you have some that are labeled best and some labeled fast. The ones that are labeled best give us our best quality. The ones that are labeled fast print faster, but perhaps compromise a little bit of quality. You also have some that are labeled graphics and some that don't say graphics. The ones that are labeled graphics have a little bit more color saturation. The ones that are not labeled graphics typically are used for photorealistic artwork or actual photographs, as well as any time that you don't want as much color saturation. In this case, I want a lot of color saturation, so I'm going to pick the black graphic best print queue. Once we've done that, we like to come down to the bottom here and pick the template that we're going to use. In this case, I'm doing a single print, but just for a standard t-shirt. So I wouldn't use the one-up. The one-up would be if we wanted to print this entire area. That's not what I'm looking for here. So I'm going to use the two-up template to print a single t-shirt. And now I'm going to bring in my file. I'm going to come over here to where it says open, which is the piece of paper with the plus sign. Click on it and then find the image. I'm using the sparrow image. Now once it comes onto my preview screen, this area over here is your preview area. I then click on the image, and at this point in time I can set the dimensions of the image both horizontally or vertically. They're currently locked, so the aspect ratio will stay locked. I could also change this by a percentage of change. We could rotate the image, as well as down here, this is for changing the position or placement of the image. I am going to change the dimensions. I'm going to make this design 10 inches wide. So I type in 10 after highlighting it, hit enter. And I'm also going to change the placement. I wish this to print 3 inches down. Now my collar is right up here, so I would like to print 3 inches down from the collar. I want the dimension that looks like it's going down, this one here, not the one coming from the side. 3. The other thing that I'm looking for in here is I know that when I pick a print queue for black garments that my preview background is black, so I want to make sure of that. The other thing I'm looking for is that the actual background behind the image itself is the same as the preview background. That lets me know that there's a transparent background. Now that we have the image and it looks correct and we have the dimensions and placement set, I'm going to process or rip this file. And there are a couple different ways I can do so. I can come up here and I can tell it to spool the job, which is the same thing as me coming right here on the file, right mouse, and telling it to rip only. Now the reason I prefer to just rip it as opposed to going right to the print function is because I can stack all the jobs that I wish to do. I can get them all set up and stacked in here, and then I can just release them to the printer when I'm ready to do so. So I'm going to process this. You'll notice the status is changing from active to holding, job spooled once it is done processing. At this point in time, we could come down to the bottom here, and if I wanted to do, let's say, 3 runs of this, I can put in here 3, and it will keep track of the runs that we're doing. And now to release this to the printer, I can either come here and tell it to print, I can come up to the printer and tell it to print, or I can come in here, right mouse, and click print to begin printing.
The white layer is finished. The machine is now rewinding and will now print the color layer. Now that the print is completed, we will remove the garment and bring it over to the heat press for drying. We now bring the printed garment over to the heat press. And we're printing on a black cotton, so we've got our temperature set to 340 degrees. And what we like to do is we like to hover over the garment first. So I don't put anything over it, and I'm going to bring the heat press down just till the magnet catches. This happens to have a hover feature. And we hover for approximately 30 seconds, unless we have a print where there's a tremendous amount of white in it. We may hover for a little bit longer. What this is doing for us is it's helping set the ink so that when we put the release paper on it and when we press it, that it doesn't push the white up into the color. It also makes it so it doesn't smear as easily. So 30 seconds. We now take our release paper or our Teflon sheet, or if we want a more flat finish, we could use parchment paper. And now we dry this with just light contact for 3 minutes. We We've got about a half a minute left. We're nearing the end of our 3-minute drying time. Just going to count down. Release. And there is our finished print.